What is up, everybody? Welcome back to ARPGME 2021, and we got a very epic Devil May Cry 5 run by the legend deCosmic. So take it away.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm deCosmic, and this is going to be Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Nero Dante V, New Game Human. This run's pretty cool, and it's a game that I've run since launch, so I'm kind of excited to show it to all of you. Really putting the A in the ARPG here. So let's just get on into it, and time will start in, well, I guess it could start in 3, 2, 1. So
all right,
first of all,
luck.
Thank you, man. So first of all, what's going to happen here is we're going to be playing this character named Nero. We're going to be playing 3 different characters across the course of this run. Nero's sword, the Red Queen, that's the first thing that we'll touch on. It has a motorcycle engine in it. And every time you strike an enemy with it, what you want to do is a mechanic called Exceed, where you can instantly rev this sword up with its motorcycle engine. And it's like a 7 or 8 frame window in order to hit this Exceed button. And then you can use this to not only increase your attack damage, but also your attack speed. And the air taunt here that I'm doing as well, you can also rev the sword during that. And so if you happen to exit a fight with no Exceed in the bar there, then we can just do that too. And it's also pretty good for movement. So the first thing that we're going to be doing here in this prologue mission is we'll be going to fight the Demon King Eurozone, who has taken Nero's arm. He's ripped it clean off. If you played DMC4, you know that Nero had a demonic arm in that game. He has it no longer. He only has one arm right now. And so, long story short, the squad is going to get bodied by Eurozone. So, this boss is actually a force fail here. And yes, you can actually beat this if you so desire to. However, it's going to be faster for us to go ahead and fail it. So we're just going to be doing this right here. Yo, thank you, Digital. We're just going to be shooting a bunch here and then doing some taunts in order to just get him to, for whatever reason, the manipulation didn't work here, but that's totally fine. Only going to lose a few seconds anyway. Come on. Thank you, viewers. I appreciate that. So, coming out of this mission now, we're going to actually be introduced to Nero's unique mechanic, which is the Devil Breakers. And the Devil Breakers are these mechanical arms that are consumables as well, and they're made by his mechanic Nico. So the first one that we're going to get is called Overture. And Overture is a blue electricity hand, but we're not going to be using the hand too much. We're actually going to be using the powered up version of the attack, which is called a break age. And every Devil Breaker has a break age attached to it. For Overture specifically, it's actually a bomb that you can put onto enemies. So for the very first boss, we're going to want to do some Exceed attacks with Red Queen, as well as plant 3 Overture bombs onto the boss. So coming up here, it's like this big root here from the tree called the Clyfoth, which we'll get into explaining a little bit later. However, let's just do this boss real quick, and then we'll get into it.
Like that? Then have some more. Swing at me.
There we go. So now it's dead. So we planted 3 bombs on that boss, and then we just went ahead and shot it to manually detonate all the bombs at once, just totally taking out the health of that boss. So we got a no damage bonus here, and the no damage bonuses actually feed a lot into the economy for this game. You saw the style ranking there on the right hand side. For not only you get this for missions, but you also get it for individual fights, and it's supposed to like encourage you to vary up your attacks, do lots of damage, stuff like that. We're going to mostly just be doing lots of damage really quickly. First thing that we're going to grab here is we're going to grab a couple of upgrades, our dash, some sword dashes, a roulette spin, lots of damage options and stuff. So the economy of this game is decided by something called red orbs. And whenever you get a no damage bonus, you get extra red orbs. Long story short, we have to no damage a lot of the early game, optimally anyway, in order to make sure that we can buy as much as possible during the early game and ensure a strong mid and late game as well. So here we're going to also be just fighting these Impusas, which are just the people of Redgrave City, which is where Eurozone has sort of taken over, and that's where the Clyfoth tree is currently stationed. Because it feeds on the bloods of humans. Blood of humans. Bloods, I don't know. Anyway. So, moving on, the next Devil Breaker that we're going to be shown is Gerbera. And Gerbera not only gives us an air dash as its regular attack, which is really good for movement, but it also gives us, as its breakage, you can shoot out a bunch of rays from it, which is called Petal Ray. We'll use that a little bit later. Now we're going to be introduced to the Hellcane enemies here, which are the Prides from DMC3 originally. And we're going to use Roulette Spin, because Roulette Spin is Nero's single most damaging attack here with Red Queen that we get in the run. So, it's really, really paramount that we hit those exceeds and get tons of damage on the enemies as quickly as possible. And it's also paramount, again, that we make sure that we take no damage in this mission. Fortunately, on human, enemies do die pretty quickly. The Devil Hunter run as well, though, like normal difficulty run, is only about 10 minutes slower than this, though. So a lot of us just run on human just because it's basically Devil Hunter, but faster. So the next strat here is we're going to be grabbing the Overture that comes up here. And all of these spawns here for the Devil Breakers that are on the ground, I think like 99% of them are fixed in new games. So a lot of the way that we map out levels with Nero is dependent on the Devil Breaker spawn. So this guy's going to come up here, and we're going to toss him into his buddy, and then shoot them both. After just kicking that guy with an Overture Bomb into him, it's still one of my favorite strats in the game. Just kick a dude into another dude, and then shoot that dude to blow up the first dude. The last fight in the hotel here, it's really just going to be a bunch of roulette spins as well. And the thing about this wave is that waves in this game are decided by two ways, by death and by time. And in this fight here specifically, no matter what I do, I can't actually speed up this second wave. So I can just kind of sit here, put on the hoodie, have a nice time, and then this guy's going to come out too. And then this dude's going to come out. And then we're going to backflip to the door. There's nothing I could have done to speed that up. That's really just about it. So now that we've got our sick hoodie on, we're going to run down the street here. And we're going to do the first of a few dev-intended skips in this game. Because there are like multiple branching paths in these levels, as well as sections that the developers did intend for you to skip if you have awareness of the level. So, first of all, you see this collapsing road. Yeah, we're just going to jump over it. There would have been a fight down there. But we don't even need to do it, so we're not going to. And then we'll just run on past everything else here, and we're going to get to the first boss called Goliath. Goliath is a really big demon, as you might have guessed. He also can attack by throwing things from his stomach and shooting giant fireballs from it. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and kill him in this church here. Read him his last rites, tell him to pick a god and pray. So we're going to do Blitz here in order to push into the second phase. And then you're going to see Petal Ray from Gerbera here. Because we're in such an enclosed space as well, Gerbera is extremely strong. Because the more those Petal Rays bounce around, the more damage that they do. And now we just killed him in the church. We skipped his entire last phase. Because otherwise we would have had to go outside of the church. We would have had to do a whole song and dance there. That's slow. We don't like that, so we're just going to keep moving on. The next mission here, Flying Hunter, we're going to get another new Devil Breaker called Punchline, which is a red fist that has a rocket board attached to it. We can ride on it like a skateboard, which is pretty sick. Fortunately, well, maybe I'll go for it, actually. We'll see how I'm feeling. There's a skip here that got patched on the old version of the game. And the new version is like kind of difficult. Maybe I'll go for it a few times. Can't really hurt. But it's like it was one of the first out of bounds that was found in the game. It's my fault too that it got patched by the developers because they watched one of my runs for IGN. And then the first thing that they did coming in special edition was decide they were gonna ruin my fun. But nothing doing. We still found a new version. Well, I didn't. I can't take credit for that. Somebody else found it, but pretty neat. So, more enemies here on the rooftops. You see the Grim Grips here. The pads that Nero can use to go from one building to another. There's something that was also introduced in DMC4. Something that's unique to his levels. Don't you do it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Alright, he's going to fly over here. Yes, excellent. Alright, so this skip here is called University Skip. We might as well just go for it. It's not going to save a ton of time, but it can't hurt to do. It can't hurt to go for. Alright, so let's go over here. And we're going to use this move here. Let's try it a few more times. It's a little bit harder on this version, which is why none of us go for it in PB attempts. And yeah, that should have worked, but that's whatever. Anyway, so can't do that. And so now what we do on this version now, like I don't even have that in a PB at all, because it's just that inconsistent. You really just want to like force yourself out onto the water there. You can walk across and go to like the next fight or whatever. It's pretty cool, but nothing doing. We're just gonna move on. So moving into this next fight here, there's barrels in this game that you can blow up, and so in this case we're actually going to be kind of waiting on some RNG spawns, because the way that enemies spawn in for waves in this game is kind of random. Like the animation can either take really long or it'll be really fast. So optimally we want to kill 3 enemies with this barrel. However, you know, they're going to be coming from 3 different spots, and how quickly they spawn in is going to determine whether or not we can do this. So we got 2 out of 3 of them. That's pretty alright. And then we'll just take them out with 3 less spins here. And then we'll move on to the next enemy, which is the Syn Scissors. They're also an enemy from DMC1. So what we want to do with the Syn Scissors here is we want to make sure that we attack them when their scissors are glowing or gleaming. And if you attack them during this, they'll go into a vulnerable state where their whole face kind of turns red, and then you can one-shot them. There, that attack hits twice if you do it while it's seated. So we parry it and then immediately kill them like that. Like that, again. Moving onward, we're going to be going to the next boss, Artemis. And the way Artemis is going to work is that we're going to use the breakage for punchline. And during the breakage for punchline, it will slam Artemis into the ground. And if she does not turn 90 degrees or more, she will always get up the same way. So let me see if I can do this here real quick. Boom, we should be good to go. And we can just loop her into this animation 3 times. And down she goes. Boom goes the dynamite. So now that we've gotten 3 no damages in a row, we're pretty much set up for a really solid early game here. And that's kind of Nero's job in this run, is he really sets up for these other characters to get their buys going. So the next character that we're introduced to here is V, who he's a summoner character. He uses 3 summons. The most which we'll see are Griffin and Shadow, which are the bird and the cat. And Shadow effectively acts as V's gun or V's ranged weapon, and Shadow is his melee. This extends even to his movement options, like his double jump comes from Griffin, his slide or his dodge comes from Shadow. The other one is called Nightmare, and it is this big golem that you can summon. We won't use Nightmare a lot because it does cost our Devil Trigger, which is the purple bar underneath the green health bar there. And instead what we're going to be doing is spending Devil Trigger points to power up Griffin and Shadow's damage output, because burst damage is so strong in this game in general, and especially in New Game, especially in Human. So instead of spending Devil Trigger on a boss, or on a summon that is AI controlled entirely almost, we're just going to use it on our weapons that we can mostly control. Also, here's a skip here. We're going to go ahead and swing V's feet into a cutscene trigger that's like just big enough to activate this cutscene through the fence. and it'll bring us right into this fight right here. Fortunately, this fight is skippable, so we can just kind of move on. These white orbs here as well, they will refill Devil Trigger. So we now have like 6 bars coming into the next fight. And on human, there's actually more white orb spawns than in the other difficulties. So this really allows us to be pretty liberal with our Devil Trigger usage, especially with how much damage we can do. So, moving on into this fight. Pretty good time to mention that V actually has to finish all of the enemies that his pets attack. And the reason for this is that his pets are actually nightmares. Yes, there's one of the things is nightmare, and it's a nightmare. So, yeah, think about that one for a second. However, so the way that it's explained in game is that demons can't kill other demons. However, that's just really incorrect because Trish in this series does that as well. The actual thing is that since they're nightmares, they can only inflict other nightmares on demons. So this is why V has to finish everything. This is the actual reason. Which makes a lot more sense to me than just, oh, demons can't kill other demons. And every time you finish a demon with V, you also get Devil Trigger in addition to getting a ton of style points. So he sort of ranks up the style rank pretty naturally. So you can end up with some pretty high style points for him, you know, like pretty easily. The next boss too, which is going to come up after this fight, is called Nidhogg. And it is a 3-headed tentacle monster. So there's a main body as well as the 3 tentacles. And essentially, in order to get him stunned, we have to take down and finish all 3 tentacles. And there is a consistent strat for this, which uses the auto mode in the game, which is the only time that auto mode is actually used in this run. And what this does is sort of makes the AI for the pets a little bit more consistent, and it allows V to do auto finishers on enemies, so we don't really have to do it. In return, though, we do sacrifice about 2,000 orbs from the economy. But that's totally fine because it speeds up the fight by like about 15-20 seconds or so. So we're going to switch over to auto mode here. And I have to make sure that I switch out of it before the next mission as well. So here we go. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to jump up, do some air taunt there. First head down, call Nightmare. There he is right there. The goodest boy when he wants to be. And we're going to start hitting Nidhogg with Arcane while Nightmare kind of goes to town here. And then we want to make sure that we keep Griffin buffed up while we're mashing Shadow here. And then this tentacle here is going to be nearing the end of its finisher life. And then we can call in a Nightmare attack. Hopefully it's the meteor, which it was. Which is, you know, what we were hoping for. And then we can just keep whacking away at this thing. There we are. And we're going to just try and finish him off here. Bird and cat, like you would say. Alright, so, pretty alright. The cut what do you say? V has some very cool lines whenever he decides to finish an enemy, which is kind of sick. Alrighty, so now that that's over, we're actually going to get into like the big skips of this game, which are the V skewer clips. So basically Shadow has a move that allows his head to turn into a giant spike, and we can stand on this spike. However, if we come in contact with the spike and the game cannot put us on top of it, it will push us to the end of the spike, including through walls, in an effort to put us on top of it. And we use this to skip like entire levels with V. So let me actually go ahead and concentrate here. There it is. So now we're outside the level. And we're going to try and come down to this room below. I need to concentrate again here.
He's throwing a tantrum up there. Watch the ceiling, B.
That might be okay. Okay, excellent. So now we've skipped an entire level because when you teleport with your cane like that from out of bounds, but you target an object, as long as you're within a decent distance of the object, when you void out, the game will treat you as though you're supposed to end up at that object. We just couldn't reach it because we were out of bounds. So we voided out, and then the game was like, well, he's supposed to be in bounds next to the barrel, so that's where it put us. And now we're right here at the boss with Geryon. And Geryon is definitely the most mobile boss in the game. Definitely, I think, the most RNG heavy fight in the run, to be honest. This boss can just randomly decide to not take damage or increase his health values and everything. It's really quite a pain sometimes, especially because, you know, even though V doesn't have to chase him down, the pets do. And with Griffin and Shadow being as, you know, uncooperative as they can be sometimes, he's actually taking, like, basically no damage right now. Which is actually, there he goes. Okay, so now his defense is, like, randomly just great, like, just superb. Ooh, there he goes. That is really good.
But of wisdom, no clock can die.
And there goes Geryon. That was like literally the best Geryon I've ever had. That was the best Mission 5 I've ever had. Insane. Alright, so moving on. We're going to be taking control of Nero again here. And we're going to be fighting a boss called Gilgamesh. This is basically Devil May Cry 5's way of giving a nod to Shadow of the Colossus, as well as trying to explain away one of the weapons that Dante had in DMC4. So we're going to buy 4 or 7 overtures here, and we're going to put 4 of them in the first magazine. Because Nero, you can actually switch between magazines for his for different setups, you know, like if you have different Devil Breaker layouts that you want to bring into different levels. And we're going to set them all up for like every mission now that we're going to use Nero. So all of our Nero menuing is now done. So what we're going to do with Gilgamesh here is we're going to try and first attempt to skip his walk cycle, which is something that can only be done on Special Edition right now with Nero, because we're playing on Turbo Mode. And Turbo Mode increases the game's work rate by 20%. And the funny thing is that this isn't true for Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is not treated as an enemy. It's treated as an environmental hazard. And environmental hazards are not actually sped up in Turbo Mode because they're considered, you know, like part of the level, and they don't want to mess with how the level's work rate is. So we're moving at 20% speed, but Gilgamesh is not. And this allows us to move at him in a quicker pace than we could in vanilla, which means that we can get to him just a little bit faster to skip that first walk cycle. So normally on vanilla we would have to wait out the first walk cycle and then do that strat, but we save a little bit of time on Special Edition because of that, because of good old turbo mode. It also just makes the game much faster, as you would get 20% faster. So we're going to use battery here, the electric hand, and then just take out the weak point on Gilgamesh. And that's down. We also got a no damage bonus as well, which is really good. So, moving into mission 7. A couple of really quick missions there. We're going to be picking V here. We actually used to do Nero on this mission. We used to use Nero on this mission. And then when the V skewer clips got found, we switched over to V. Because he can, again, skip the entire level up to the boss. So, excuse me, game, can I do the thing? Thank you. So, once again, I will need to concentrate for a little bit because the out-of-bounds navigation in this mission in particular is pretty dicey. So, here we go. Hold on. All right, Shadow. There we go. Very nice. All right. So, now that we are out of bounds, we can just kind of hover along the rest of the level using our mobility with Griffin here. This might be bad. Okay, cool. Excellent. Alright, so what I'm going to do up here before this last jump is I'm actually going to stand in still for a little bit so that the game will save my location.
This way.
And I'm going to wait a little bit extra longer since it is a marathon. So basically we're going to get the game to save our location so that if we void out, the game will put us back here. We can also look at this sick park bench for the PNG in the background. Alrighty. So here we go. Alright, nothing doing. As you do. So now we're going to actually hit this checkpoint here. And we're going to use the game's checkpoint feature after it's done saving to put us back in bounds. And then we're going to go to this fight against the Proto-Angelo and the Scudo-Angelos. So basically all the way that if you're not fighting a singular boss in this game, you're fighting a bunch of powered up regular enemies. And the Proto-Angelo, which is the Angelo that's going to show up with a big claymore, has a formation that it does with the Scudo-Angelos. And we can actually parry this with V's Nightmare Snap. And this will send the Angelos into an instant kill state. And we can hopefully chain a bunch of kills off of this. Which I didn't get the touch and goes there, but that's fine. So now, we're just going to go ahead and mop these guys up. Excuse me. Thank you. Appreciate it. And there we go. Good to go. Alright, so. Again, no damage. Really looking really solid here as far as the orb route goes. So now we're going to go back to Nero again, and we're going to do the run back against Eurozone. So at this point in the story, Nero and V, as well as Nero's mechanic Nico, who drives the van for Devil May Cry, for their devil hunting service, they're all looking for Dante. And while V and all of them are actually doing the active looking for Dante, Nero's like, I've got my arm now, dude. I'm going to go and fight Eurozone. You know, I'm going to go and try and take him down. He bodied me when I only had one arm. Now I'm twice as good because I got two arms. I'm going to plant the bomb here on this dude. Blow him up. Excuse me. Thank you. There we go. A little bit of optimal cycles here, you can see. Boom, boom, boom. And we actually broke the overture there because it does damage and that will finish the fight, but we also don't need that overture for the rest of the level. We just need it for that one fight. So we're going to pick up the Gerbera here, and we're going to be using that not only to clear out some rooms, or clear out one room coming up, we're also going to use it for another dev-intended skip. So Nero has a bunch of branching pathways in his levels, like I mentioned before. The other two characters, Dante and V, their levels are a little bit more linear. But in Nero's case, especially for this level and Mission 15, there are a few extra fights that you can do if you so desire. We do not desire to do them, so we are not going to do them, as you would expect. So first of all, we're just going to Gerbera forward here, using the air dash, and we're just going to go on up this hill. And you're going to see this giant chasm before us. And if we jump over it, we're just going to skip an entire fight that would have spawned. So there's a bunch of skips in this game that you know they worked if nothing happens. And that's the first of them. Well, that's actually I think that's the second of them, because the first one's on mission 2. So the Baphomet enemies that we're introduced to here, they're these goats that kind of teleport around. And they have projectile shields. So we just kind of got to mop them up there with one melee attack. We're going to use Petal Ray again in this room. It creates like a very big shotgun blast at its source. So that's why I got up really close to that enemy there. And then we can just clean up the rest of the enemies. We're also going to do another skip here that's intended. We're going to just jump over another chasm. This is a little bit trickier though, because the chasm's a little bit bigger. There's going to be some enemies kind of in our way, because they're going to spawn in no matter what. Because you can see them right there. So we're going to just do this and then go on through. Boom, nothing doing. Pretty cool. So this strat coming up, is something that actually is only possible because of the fact that there are extra breaker spawns in human. And so we actually get to do some pretty neat strats. And so the punchline here does not spawn on Devil Hunter. And as a result of this, spawning here, we don't use it on these enemies. We'll get to this in a second. But the punchline, you can toss it at enemies, and it counts as a melee attack for whatever reason against the Baphomets here. So we can throw it at them and then pull them to us with Nero's Wire Snatch, which I probably should have mentioned before now. And then you can just, you know, once you've taken out their projectile shield, you can just go ahead and just use your Let Spin on them. Oh, that was good. Okay, nice. So now we're up here on this elevator. Boom. I think my headphones might have just died. Whatever. So, you can just keep going. If I get a chance to look at my headphones, I will.
Good. Finally made it.
And then we're going to move on into the fight with Eurozone. And this is another force fail that we're going to have to do. In this case, though, you have to go through the first phase. You cannot... Well, you have to fail at the second phase. The first phase, you do have to beat Eurozone.
Not for much longer.
So, in the first phase, what we're going to do, once we get in here... We got to avoid these other two drops. We're going to do a dash forward with our sword, do a couple of dodges to the left, do a petal ray, Gerbera attack, do 2 of those, and that's going to put us through the first phase. And then, Helter Skelter, we're going to use, which is, you know, the good old Giga Drill Breaker right here. And this is going to cause us to do a ton of damage to Eurozone's Crystal. And the reason this is important is because the more damage that we do to Eurozone's Crystal, the more damage Eurozone does to us. So this actually allows us to fail the force fail even faster. And we're through. Okay, so these things need to get charged. That's fine. I need to find my charger at some point. Whatever. I don't stream this game with headphones anyway. Alright, so this next skip here. This is the hardest V-skip in the entire game. It is called Newest Skewer, and it is, in fact, the newest skewer clip that got found. So this is also going to, again, skip basically the entire level. We have to do this first mission. We have to do this first fight here. Always. However... After that, we'll be skipping to the animation, and it's pretty cool. So hopefully we can get it, because it's tough. It's going to require a void out as well. It's a very tricky void out, however, because we're not going to be doing it to a barrel or any other type of object. We're going to be doing an empty void out off of these teleport here. So first things first, take this guy out. Alright, so here we go. That's unfortunate. Alright. 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 Come on. Thank you. That might have done it. Hopefully that did it. Nice. Okay. Excellent. So now we are at the very end of the mission. We're going to activate that cutscene there. I kind of want to just stay away from these guys to secure the no damage here. Because especially since this is a marathon run, I really want to make sure that I just have a strong orb route. Just so that we can close this out pretty strong. So the nobodies here are pretty tanky. As you can kind of tell from them taking a bunch of skewers to the face. I should note, by the way, skewer is like one of these single most damaging moves. Definitely one of his best moves too. Oh, that's unfortunate. He leapt from like across the screen. Quite unfortunate. But we got a bunch of no damages earlier, so We should be okay. Should be. Alright. So, nothing you can do about it. They're gonna go down. They got a bunch of different attacks. Come on. Let me get out of here. Thank you. Alright, so now we're through the early game. What I would consider the early game. Because that's, all of that is, up through there is just reset hell. So, now we're going to be getting into the Dante sections. And Dante is effectively a walking Swiss Army knife. We can change not only his weapons at will, but also his fighting styles. And, we can change his swords, we can change his guns. And we also have a devil trigger of our own, but he doesn't summon anybody. He goes into a powered up state that increases his attack speed, his attack damage. It also allows him to recover health, and it'll give him new versions of attacks that he already has. So we'll see that in a little bit too. So we're going to use our shotgun here as well as the gauntlets to take out these small enemies. And you'll notice that the gauntlets are kind of heating up because there's, a mechanic called ignition. And ignition on the gauntlets called Balrog, they'll not only increase the damage of Balrog, it will also give us access to moves in the Swordmaster style, which we'll unlock after this fight. So right now we just kind of got to use the Balrog gauntlets as well as the shotgun, because the shotgun in this game does a ton of damage. So we're going to do this, take these guys out. Excuse me. Thank you. Nope. Goodbye. Thank you. Alright. So now moving into this mission, or moving into this part right here, we actually have to buy at this statue, because when you play a character for the first time in this game, it won't actually let you go to the customize menu and buy any of their moves. You can only buy like items such as the purple orbs that we used to increase the amount of max devil trigger that we had. So we're going to buy the 4th level of Swordmaster, the 3rd level of Trickster. We're going to buy Ignition 2, which increases the duration of Ignition, and then we're going to buy Stinger, which is kind of a staple of DMC speedrunning. We're going to use Royal Guard here in order to block this guy's attack. Oh my god, he came at me really fast. It's way faster than usual. Then we're going to use the Uppercut, also known as Real Impact. And we have to be in Ignition in order to use this move. You can probably tell why it's really strong. So we're going to use that a ton throughout the run. It's one of Dante's best nukes that he has, like, by far. These scissors right here, we're going to just parry them with his Broadsword Rebellion. And we're just going to taunt them to make sure that they can just come at us real quick. And boom, they're both down. And we can just keep on cruising through. So now I mentioned that Dante gets different versions of his moves in Devil Trigger. Stinger is one of them. So this is Devil Trigger Stinger. It can vacuum in enemies, do a ton of damage, does a lot of crowd control. It's great. Normally we would just kind of dash forward and that would kind of be all she wrote right there. And then we can just use Real Impact in the gauntlets to clean everything up. The first skip that Dante actually has, there's no real name for it because it's nothing terribly special, honestly. We're going to activate this little thing here, this little fight. And because that's a secret encounter, the game prioritizes that encounter over the mandatory encounters that are in this hallway. So, again, one of those skips where, you know, we just run over this trigger for the mandatory fight that never activates because the game's like, well, that thing back there, I want you to do that so you can get your little collectible. So I'm not going to lock you out of that. So we just abuse encounter priority there. It's another one of those skips where nothing happens, so you know that it worked. We're going to use the shotgun here to bring these bats down to the floor Because for whatever reason, a shotgun brings things to the floor instead of knocking them away. I don't understand it, but we're just going to go with it. And we're going to use these guys right here. They're done. The Impusa Queen there, and they're not really even worth mentioning. They're kind of just a walking giant hitbox that looks like a queen bee, so we'll just dust them and just take them out. So this mission here, by the way, actually takes place around the same time as the prologue that we played with Nero. So I said before that everybody was looking for Dante. That's after this mission. We're going to go to when Dante wakes up after V found him in mission 9. So that being said, Dante is also on his way to fight Eurozone. When we play Nero in the prologue, he's there. You know, like we arrive as Dante's done getting swamped by Eurozone. So we're going to use this guy right here to build up some Devil Trigger. We're going to just get some sick real impacts here. Take out these Angelos here. These are significantly weaker Angelos, by the way, than the ones that we fought in Mission 7. So don't think that, like, I mean, Dante does a lot of damage, but not that much. There we go. We also just blocked that guy's attack with Royal Guard, so Royal Guard's pretty good in this game. You can block anything with it. Block anything. So now what we're going to do with Eurozone here is on higher difficulties, we would want to actually fail here as well. However, on human, we don't want to. Excuse me. We want to just do 4 real impacts in order to take out the crystal. Come on. Jeez Louise. Come on. Thank you. Probably gonna lose some time here. Yeah, that's fine. This mission is pretty volatile, all things considered, so it's really hectic. There's a lot of enemy RNG that goes on. There's Eurozone RNG that goes on. So now that we've relived the bodying of the Devil May Cry squad at the hands of the Demon King, we're going to switch back to present day. And Dante's sword got broken by Eurozone. So now we're wielding his father's sword, the sword Sparta, which is named after his father. I don't think that any other demons name their swords after themselves in this series, but, you know, nothing important, I suppose. You know, maybe his dad was really self-confident. Anyway, we're going to go up here, and this is probably my favorite mission in the run. It's got the best boss fight for sure. One of the cooler strats. Hopefully I can land that one when we get to it. We're going to also line up all these guys right here, vacuum them all in with Devil Trigger Stinger. And then we're going to hit this guy with real impact, and we want to hit this as early as possible so we can catch this spawn here in time. Unfortunately, did not do that. But we could have gotten a double kill there with real impact if we did. So, now that we've moved on from there.
Not a fan of ruins. Like my city's life.
Also, fun fact, you can pick up Lady's weapon, the Kalina Ann, in this mission, as well as the previous fight that we were in, the Eurozone fight. And you can, that's the secret weapon, and you can get a pretty cool weapon at the end of the game if you do that. This fight here with the enemy, the Judeca, it's going to go by pretty quickly because we're just going to use Devil Trigger Stinger on it. Hopefully, we're just kind of hoping that it doesn't teleport away like that. So we just kind of want to prevent it from doing anything. And unfortunately, he is going to get to play the game a little bit. I'm going to push this guy near the edge here because I want to just finish him and get that Devil Trigger orb right there. Hit this.
Seems like the fastest route. Well, that's gonna collapse.
We're going to get Devil Trigger off of this guy, or get Ignition, I'm sorry, off of this dude. Real impact. And then activate Devil Trigger to tank that guy's hit. And then take this dude out with a good old real impact uppercut. And those enemies are down now too. So as you can tell, like a lot of rooms in this game are mapped out because you have to make sure that you have, like, that you use certain tools at all times to deal with different enemies. And so we deal with different enemies based on like the tools that we have on hand, as well as the devil trigger, etc. So a lot of room construction in this. Okay, hold on. You know what? We're gonna not do this. We're gonna try this again so I can stop talking for like 2 seconds and actually land this strat correctly.
They're just gonna let me through.
Because I don't want to miss this strat. It's like my favorite. There we go. Thank you. I appreciate it, bud. So there, we just kind of loop him into some real impacts. Use Royal Guard to block his attacks. Throw his damage back at him that we built up by blocking. And then we do a double trigger stinger to finish him. And he's just toast. He's just gone in one phase. We're also going to get him as a weapon now here, too. Which, if you need a reason to play Devil May Cry 5, there's two. One character has a motorcycle engine and his sword. And the other character uses his motorcycle like a sword. So now that we have Cavalier, this weapon operates on a system called gear, like a motorcycle. Imagine that. So basically, if you delay your hits, you can rev up the gears in the weapon, and you'll see the wheels turn orange. And when the wheels turn orange, that's when you know that you're at maximum damage output for the weapon. So we're going to do this to a lot of enemies, especially some bosses later on, to really, really take out their health bar. Another skip coming up here. This is called Bloodwell skip or Gargoyle skip. This is a thing that is 100% dev intended because there is a bonus for completing the mission this way. It is called using no Nidhogg hatchling. The Nidhogg hatchlings are just like this game's versions of keys. And so basically they wanted to reward players for being able to get through the level without using them, without going through any of the tunnels that you see here. So we're going to use Cav here. Tons of crowd control as well, I should say, on this weapon. Tons and tons of crowd control. You're just swinging around this big old bike and stuff. I'm going to turn my fan on here in a second. So we're just going to be going from room to room here and just taking out these blood clots, which are going to open a pathway underneath the statue for us. And that's where we're going to fight Eurozone again. In case you were wondering whether or not this game likes to use boss fights, it does, in fact, like to reuse boss fights.
Since I used my brain this much.
So, now that we've solved that puzzle, which Dante so aptly says, you know, it's been a while since I've used my brain this much, because he's been asleep for about a month in the story now, while his buddies have been looking for him. He's been asleep the entire time. However, this means that he's got some ideas in his head rattling around. So what he's going to do is he's going to actually fuse his sword with the Sparta, and he's going to create the Devil Sword Dante. And not only does he get his own weapon, he gets his Syn Devil Trigger form, which is basically like his big anime power-up move, his Bankai, whatever you want to say. This is unfortunate. This is not what I wanted. That's fine, whatever. So there's sometimes with this boss where you will be like a smidgen too high and you will not break the crystal in the right amount of hits. and you won't be able to do a proper 1 cycle. However, we got a 1.5 cycle, so that's pretty alright. Because what's supposed to happen there is Eurozone's supposed to do a big spin, and then you'll mash the jabs with Balrog in order to build up ignition, and that will stun Eurozone, and then you can just take him out right there. So now that Dante's got his big power up and everything, we don't get to play more Dante for now. We have to go and play the other characters. Technically, we could pick Dante on this mission, but Nero on human is absolutely the fastest option. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to one of those breaker magazines that we set up earlier, and it's got the Buster arm. This is a homage to his demonic arm from DMC4 that I mentioned earlier, and it allows him to just grab enemies, do a ton of damage. And we're going to use this specifically for the enemy spawners that are in this mission. And we're just going to hit this with a couple of hits from Red Queen, and then just use the breaker attack there in order to take them out really, really quickly. And we can just go down to the next level. This is also like the only co-op mission in this entire, like purely co-op mission in this entire game. If you have like a few friends that want to play, you can all like meet up here and have a nice time doing some co-op combos and stuff. Go through like 3 different floors. It's a good time. I've done it a few times. So then the last floor here. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Boom. We also got to watch out for these wheelie boys, by the way. The chaos. Because, chaos. I'm here to kill chaos. But I'm not actually here to kill chaos. I'm here to pop these blood clots so we can go down further into the Clyfox tree. Alright, there we go. And now, after these guys get out of my way, nice. That was a nice gold too. Cool. I think I know why too. Alright, so now we're going to get into the last mission with V. And this mission kind of goes by the DMC trope, where it you have like a boss rush level usually. And so with V, we're actually going to lose all of our summons, and we have to regain all of them back one by one and fight repeat fights of some bosses from earlier, specifically Goliath, Artemis, and Cavalier. However, these are weakened versions of those bosses, so the damage output that you're going to be seeing coming out of V, it's a little bit misleading, because it's not like if we put V in the levels earlier with Nero and Dante, he would have just shredded those enemies. These are mirages of those enemies that we saw earlier. So we've lost all of our pets. We have to do Kane teleports here. And they're actually really fast without the bird too, I should note that. So we're going to grab Shadow here first. And we're going to use this to do skewers to Artemis. As you can see here, tons of damage coming out of this kitty. And she's already dead. And the great thing about V, you noticed that I could still attack her while V was getting hurt. His pets operate completely independently of him, so he can still DPS when he's getting hurt. It's one of the few advantages he has over Nero and Dante, is that you don't lose any DPS when you get hurt. So now we're going to grab Griffin for the Goliath fight here. And the devs actually have said that like this is the order that they intended the bosses to be fought in. This isn't necessarily the order that they intended for the summons to be picked up in, but it's 100%, you know, what they figured, you know, they would have people fight first, second, and third. So that's kind of neat to have that sort of confirmed by them. So heading into Cavalier here. There's been a couple of times where I've actually had Cavalier not teleport away from me here, because that's a thing that he does, which is a thing that a lot of bosses in this game do. Teleport away from you. But, we're going to try and get him to take a lot of damage here. Shadow, can you? Okay, that's fine, I suppose. Shadow didn't want to attack, so that's fine. However, we're going to get to see a cool thing here. V's going to be like, nothing personal, kid. Teleports behind you. And then just take out Cavaliers. Probably his coolest finisher in the game. The skewer clips here that I'm going to do, they don't save a whole lot of time, but they are there and they do work, and they're pretty neat. So I'm just going to go for them because we're on a pretty decent pace. Nani? So normally what you would have to do here is you would have to go and hit some blood clots to get rid of the vines that are in our way. However, we can skip through the collision here and just clip through the vines. Nice. So there's the first one right there.
Slice him.
This might be too far back. Yeah, this is too far back. Okay, so let's reposition Shadow here.
Slice him.
Oh, very good. Excellent.
My journey is coming to an
And
end.
then we are good to go on that one. So everybody say goodbye to V. We will hopefully not see him for the rest of the run. He served his purpose, which was to go out of bounds and fight a few bosses. And then we're going to move back to Nero. Everybody's favorite white boy. So Nero is now heading to... he's going to kind of intersect with V a little bit here, because the creature that you saw V approaching in that cutscene is a boss called Malphus, which is the one that Nero is going to be fighting in this mission. So, we're just going to head on through here. This is definitely Nero's most expansive mission. There's like 2 or 3 different ways you can actually go through this level. But we're going to be taking the most optimal route, the fastest route. It's going to skip a lot of the fights that are set up. I suggest, like, when you play this game, go through like this mission a couple of times. There's some really cool fights and areas that are in this mission. We're gonna frankly be going through some of the more boring areas because a lot of the other areas are really pretty, but they're just slow. And now we're going to take whatever sports team that you don't like and just be like, well, this is their defensive line. This is what's going to happen to these Angelos. These Angelos that are just kind of chilling in our way, we don't even have to fight them. We can just go ahead and run past them. This became a running joke on my stream when somebody said, oh, it's the Cleveland Browns defensive line. And they clipped a thing of me running through this area. But I can't make that joke anymore because apparently the Cleveland Browns are good now. I don't know a thing about sports, but apparently that's a thing. So we're going to get to this behemoth here now. And we're going to use the Buster Arm here to finish it. And then we're going to pull our best Travis touchdown impersonation and suplex these dudes. And these Scudo Angelos, they get totally demolished by Buster Arm. You kind of want them to also block your attack here, because if they run into you and then block the attack, they won't be able to retaliate immediately upon you landing. Because something that's not been relevant to discuss right now during this run is that if you get hit while you're using one of the Devil Breakers, they're kind of fragile things. You know, like Nico's not got the most sturdy architecture on her, or sturdy builds on her Devil Breakers. So if you get hit during that, they break. You know, you don't have it. You gotta find a backup or something. So that's why it's important to make sure that the Angelos have to block you suplexing their homie, because then you can just kind of get up scot-free. This is also a really cool finisher on the Judeka here. Bam. we're going to just make sure that the enemies here don't try and break the overture that's here, because that overture is really good for a nice little safety strat, as well as like kind of optimal too. This is one of those breaker drops that's RNG. It's like one of the only ones that's relevant though, even though it's RNG. So we've got the optimal magazine here, which is 4 overtures, and again we're going to want to plant 3 overtures onto Malthus. So here we go. I will have to concentrate a little bit here, just because this boss fight's a little bit hectic. Where are we going? Oh no. Okay, well that's fine. That's fine. I actually would rather that. So this is actually why that's kind of a backup strat. This is perfect to demonstrate. Get out of my face. So you saw that I planted a bomb on her. I planted 3 actually, technically, but only 2 of them went off. And the reason for that is when that cutscene goes off, it always goes off the first time you're hitting this fight, and it depletes all of the overtures that you put on the boss. This is actually a really bad Malthus fight. I'm not gonna lie to you. So imagine if we had planted like 3 overtures onto her, and then we had, you know, gotten hit. We would have just been totally assed out. However, moving on. So, we're going to go back to Dante now. Yay! And Dante, a few missions ago, got a weapon called the Faust Hat, or Faust Hat, whichever pronunciation you prefer. So we're going to be upgrading the gunslinger style, because a hat is a gun in this game. And we're going to also grab Dr. Faust 2, which is going to increase the amount of damage that it does, but also increase the amount of orbs that it spends for its moves, because this is the money gun. It's powered by the economy. This is why it's so important to get these no damages early, especially so that Dante can fuel his money gun. Because we're going to be using the good old High Noon. It's also called Red Hot Night. And we're going to call down meteors from the sky. And they're going to do a whole lot of damage. So Dante is absolutely like the focus of this run in terms of where the money goes, so to speak. Excuse me. Because not only does he have a lot of tools that cost a lot of money, he also has a weapon that is fueled by money. So this is why we've really like cut a lot of the fat from Nero and V's buys, is because as more skips have been found and more money is like money is more scarce in this game or in this route, we have to really make sure that we save a lot of stuff for Dante. Excuse me, game. I don't remember wanting to deal with this. Thank you. Goodbye. Alright, so this part right here, this is the only time we're going to see the assassin demon in the game. It's called the Fury. And it'll be gone in a flash if I do this setup right. So, I'm going to do this right here. Kill these guys. And then we're going to turn back around here. Oh, I might have fucked it. That's fine. Whatever. He's dead anyway. Okay. So, he should have died to a proper setup there, but I missed the timing there. Not something I miss often, but I should have just held down the Red Hot Night there instead of trying to reset the animation. Without further ado, though, no harm, no foul. We're gonna wait for more enemies to spawn into this room before we can start up the Red Hot Night, and then we're gonna hopefully scoop all of them by this. Yep, there we go. Excellent. So now that we do that, boom. Is it possible to play only one character through all the missions? It is not, actually. Only with a mod called Divergence mod, which is only on PC, and I'm actually playing on PS5 right now. So, the only character you can play through all the missions is Virgil. Virgil has the big brother privileges, the Virgil privileges. Well, I would play through this whole game as Dante in Special Edition. I would do a lot of Dante runs.
Oh well, better get to it.
All right, so here we go. We're gonna get into Cerberus, and Cerberus is the three-headed dog. You might know it from unlocking easy mode on DMC3. So what we're gonna do with Cerberus here, we're gonna go ahead and try and block one of his attacks. And we're just gonna swing wildly here with Syn Devil Trigger. And then hopefully, good grief. Thank you. Alright, so unfortunate RNG here, but it'll be fine. Puppy petted. Turn on my fan here. Where the heck is my charging cable for my headphones? Most unfortunate. Alright, so this next fight here is just going to be the last fight with Eurozone. He's gone into total kickboxer mode. And we're going to have to force him through his different phases using Balrog. Good old real impact loops here. Fortunately, too, this explosion doesn't seem to do any damage to us. I might actually miss this. Unfortunately, alright, that's fine. Okay. And he's down. Cool. Okay, so last few missions of the game. There it is. Okay, sick. Surprise! V all along was Virgil's human half. Put this in Kingdom Hearts terms, V was his nobody and Eurozone was his heartless. Let me actually plug in my headphones here real quick so that they can charge. Now we have to go. Oh my goodness, I did not mean to do that one. So used to playing Legendary Dark Knight. All right, so now Virgil has fused back into Virgil by V combining with Eurozone. So now Dante has to fight these pets. And so we're just going to go ahead and hit them with the money gun as well. This mission really is pretty canned, so to speak. We just kind of go through it with Red Hot Knight, and we just kind of, you know, dust these bosses real quick, these little mini bosses. You could technically skip this fight if you could gain enough height here. But we don't have the tools for it in this run, so we don't skip it. Alright, so here we go. The nightmare fight that we're actually going to do here involves a phase skip, where Nightmare, he'll teleport away after a little while, and we want to make sure that he doesn't teleport away. So we're going to have to do a set amount of damage to him, or just try and deplete his health bar in general, before a timer expires. We don't know how long exactly it is, but you do have, it's kind of generous. So let's see if I can get this here. All right, here we go. So we're going to use Cavalier, and we're just going to drive on him. The good old Cavalier combos. And we've definitely hit it, so we've got the phase skip. So normally he'd like teleport away. We have to go ahead and kill Shadow and Griffin. before he'll come back. But we don't even need to worry about that. He's dead. So, this boss fight here against Virgil, because we're going to have to fight Virgil twice. This first one here is entirely random. I just kind of have to hope he stays still while I charge up an entire Red Hot Knight. So, here we go. And here we go. Nice. That's fine. I can live with this. It wasn't a one-shot just because, oh, that's a good finish, actually. I'm totally fine with that. So, we royal released back at him. Just parried his attack. Boom. Dead. And here's the end of the run. So time is going to be coming up in a little bit. And by the way, Virgil is Nero's father. That's pretty cool, I guess. Time. And let me turn
hey, good run, GG.
Because I can't actually hear you right now, Two Worlds.
Oh, brother.
Oh, nice. Okay.
You cut off your own
All right, now I can hear you.
power.
Hey, GG. You got a 110-51.
Damn it.
Hey, very cool. So, that is Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, New Game Nero Dante and V. There's a lot to explain in this run, so I tried to go over the important stuff. It's a really, really dense run, especially to explain in like a little over an hour. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. I love this game to death. If you want to learn this game, because maybe you got interested from this, there's a DMC Discord that you can join. Myself and the Scruffington will be more than happy to help you. We've been running this game for a while. There's a lot of other great folks in there too that you can meet if you want to run the other DMC games. And if you just want to play this game too, it's like an amazing game. So, yes, thank you so much to ARPGME for accepting the run and having me over. Much love. And yeah, that's really about it from me. If you want to find me on Twitch, it's deCosmic, and on YouTube it's deCosmic Runs.
If you do that, you can't come back. Why do you think